Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Rodi, and today we are going over this past weekend / Friday's big offseason signing for the Chicago Bears. Ryan Poles adds more depth to this team, and I got to be honest with you guys, he did say he was going to be less active in free agency, so I know a lot of people are frustrated that the Bears aren't getting big name players. Why are they not going out and spending money? Because there's a plan in place and they want to do this rebuild right. I honestly think that this is going to be a full-blown rebuild at this point. And, you know, I know that he's gotten rid of a lot of bad contracts. He's gotten rid of older players, but he's going to build this team over the next 2 years. So he's keeping guys that are going to help get us through next season. And then most likely going to be going after new targets in next year's free agency, as the Bears are projected to have over $120 million. And that's if we don't keep this $30 million in cap that we have right now. So there still could be moves made. There's no doubt about it. But Ryan Poles, I really like what he's doing, even though I can be very frustrated too. I'm like, oh, I just want some news of someone new coming in and talk about it. That's all right. He's got a plan in place. We have a lot more draft picks than we had originally, and we're going to continue to build this team to be Justin Fields' friend and to build the Bears into a Super Bowl winning team. So Bears again picked up a few names over the last weekend, and likely one or two more will happen this week, but don't think any big names except one who I really want to come to Chicago is coming. So we're going to hit in that in a little bit, but we also are going to have a mock draft coming up for you guys this week. So stay tuned for that. So let's jump into the first discussion of today. The people that the Bears have signed so far this offseason. Obviously, Larry Ogunjobi was a part of the Bears until he failed his physical. Still could sign with the Bears if he passes his physical again, but that does hurt his market value with other teams. So he technically is a free agent and can go wherever he wants, but there's still a chance of him coming to Chicago. Then followed by that, the Bears signed offensive guard and center Lucas Patrick from the Green Bay Packers on a 2-year, $8 million contract. Great signing. Aaron Rodgers had great things to say about him. Overall, strong signing for the Bears. Then they re-signed long snapper Patrick Scales. Obviously love the guy on a 1-year, $1.7 million contract. Then they went out and got linebacker Nicholas Moreau. I still haven't found his contract details anywhere. So if anyone wants to post those for me, please let me know. But a young linebacker that's going to pair well with Roquan Smith. And Roquan Smith even says he's excited to work with him. So good on that. Wide receiver Byron Pringle from the Kansas City Chiefs on a 1-year, $6 million contract with $4 million guaranteed. Strong player, 6'1", had some success with Patrick Mahomes as any wide receiver would. So stay tuned for that. Very excited for Byron Pringle. I think I said Pickle the first time. If I did, I'm sorry, but Pringle is his last name. But overall, strong signing by Ryan Poles. Also that connection already being with Kansas City. And then defensive lineman Justin Jones. So I like that one a lot too. 2-year contract with the Chicago Bears. Overall, not too bad. And Equanius St. Brown. Tony said it a lot better last time. I know that I literally got everyone's name so far correct. So everyone that's out there that knows my pronunciation issues, I apologize about that. But we signed him from the Green Bay Packers, who is familiar with Luke Getsy, young wide receiver, 6'4", very excited for him. So a lot of good depth signings. And if the Bears were a Super Bowl champion team, this would be like the best depth we could ever get. Honestly, besides Lucas Patrick, they're all depth guys. And many of them are probably going to be one and done kind of with the Chicago Bears until we build through the draft or better free agents or trades come our way. So, but Ryan Poles does a lot of his homework. He likes these guys. They're all fairly young, all under 30 years old. So good to see that, except Patrick Scales. Good to see that. Happy they're all back, and we're looking forward to that. But 3 signings happened over the weekend, and we're very excited to share that with you. So to start, Al-Quadin Muhammad, defensive lineman from the Indianapolis Colts, signed a 2-year, $10 million deal with the Chicago Bears. Comes from the Matt Eberflus defense, worked with him since 2018 when Eberflus first became the defensive coordinator for Indianapolis. I like this signing a lot. I really, really do. 26 years old, 6'4", and 250 pounds. So he's a very large man, and he's not fat either. He has a lot of muscle. He's lean. He's fast. He's strong off the snap, and I really like this guy. He also had a career year last year. Out of his career 11 sacks, 6 of them came in 2021. Contract years, guys usually do end up playing better, but he brings that depth that the Bears need, and also potentially could be a starter over Travis Gibson in the new Matt Eberflus defensive scheme, and he's a great mentor as well. Talking about his stats, let's go back to that real fast. He had 48 total tackles last year, 32 of those being solo, 7 tackles for loss. Can't complain about that, in 13 quarterback hits. So he isn't a Khalil Mack, but he's a whole lot cheaper and he's an impactful player. And also, I just want to put this out there that he has pretty similar stats to Larry Ogunjobi for 1/3 of the cost. So I think the Bears might have dodged a bullet potentially with not signing Ogunjobi or not being able to have Ogunjobi on the roster right away, because the Bears went out and got some talent for a pretty cheap price. So good on him. Welcome to Chicago, Al-Quadin Muhammad. Let's go to our second signing that I want to talk about is fullback. Bears haven't had a fullback in a super long time, so I'm pretty excited about this. But fullback Khari Blasingame, that from the Tennessee Titans, 25 years old, 6 foot, 233 pounds. Just to put that in perspective, he's 17 pounds lighter on the offensive side of the ball and 4 inches shorter than Al-Quadin Muhammad. He's a truck. He's definitely a fullback, something that the Bears haven't had in a long time, because Matt Nagy usually would put a tight end in at fullback or wouldn't even use a fullback at all, which I think is silly, especially in today's NFL with how defensive linemen are so much faster and stronger. You got to have someone back there for extra protection for the running back, or even Justin Fields. He is a very large guy. He was the Derrick Henry while Derrick Henry was out injured this past season. And his stats aren't great. I mean, he doesn't have a whole lot of stats because, again, he's a fullback. But the Bears haven't had a fullback in years. And it's exciting to hear that Luke Getsy is going to bring that potentially to his offense. Green Bay always seems to have or had good fullbacks in the last couple of years. So they obviously see the potential in this guy. Young, cheap, again, no contract information, but I assume it's a cheap contract, but good protection for Justin Fields, and we're welcome to Chicago. And finally, a re-signing, which I'm very happy about, and I know Tony is too, we were texting about earlier today, is safety and special teams specialist DeAndre Houston-Carson. He's been with the Bears forever. He signed a 1-year contract. Usually special teams guys usually get 1-year contracts because they're pretty replaceable, but he's special. He's the heart and soul of the special teams unit. He also is a really good corner. He played really well back in 2020 during COVID. He had to fill in for Tayshaun Gibson Sr. a few times. And he actually was the one that deflected that final pass for Tom Brady in the Bears-Bucks game that the Bears ended up winning when the Bucks won the Super Bowl that year. But a strong signing for the Bears, a good depth guy, because you can have him on defense and on special teams. He's a good leader and can continue to build the special teams unit, who hasn't been terrible, even though we did lose our special teams coach, Chris Tabor, this past season. He went to Carolina. Still a good guy to have on the team, can bring suggestions to the team moving forward, and happy to have him back. So players that we're looking to potentially sign, I'm only going to hit on one, and I've hit on him before, is, give me Tyrann Mathieu. We need another safety back there. I know he's older and he's going to cost an arm and a leg to bring in, but he hasn't been signed yet. And a lot of people are rumored that the Bears are going to go after him, that the Bears are interested because of that Ryan Poles-Mathieu connection. But I would love to have him replace Tayshaun Gibson Sr., who was not a bad player, by the way. For what we paid him, over the last 2 years, we paid him a little bit over $2.5 million. And he was a great player. But, Tyrann Mathieu is an all-pro player, can bring instant upgrade to this defense, especially the defensive backs. And I'm very excited that the Bears are in the pool for this guy. So please bring him to Chicago. One other person that I think the Bears could bring in still is J.C. Tretter, the recently released Cleveland Browns center. I know we talked about him a few times, but he's a leader. He leads, the NFLPA. He's the president of it. And the NFL Players Association, if those who don't know, but he's a very, very strong center that gives the opportunity for Lucas Patrick to go to the guard position, even though Lucas Patrick was ranked 3rd on run blocking percentage for centers last season. Could be a nice signing, could get him for cheap now that it's been a week into free agency. But the Bears are still likely going to make moves, so stay tuned for that. But that's all the information that we have today. Thank you very much for joining this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Brody, and we will see you guys next time.